In Robert Liparulo's Deadfall, campers meet killers in a high-stakes game of survival in the wilderness.
Deadfall is about a group of men who have had a really rough year. They head up to the Canadian wilderness just to get away from it all. They end up at a very remote spot. They arrive at a time when a town has been besieged by a group of bad guys who have access to a satellite laser weapon. This group of people are terrorizing this town. The two groups eventually run into each other. The campers, the good guys, essentially it's all they can do to just run for their lives and survive. But before long they're faced with the dilemma of, do they just run and save their own skin, or do they try to also help the town?
You always include at least one woman who's in the thick of things and holding her own.
In a lot of literature and movies, women kind of take a secondary role, and yet I think women are very decisive, and that decisiveness translates into bravery and heroism.
Describe for us the setting of the book.
Pillar Falls is a fictional town close to the Northwest Territories. It's very isolated. It's in an area of the country that's very difficult to get to, and more importantly, very difficult to get away from if you need to get away from it. The area up there in Saskatchewan is very beautiful, stunningly beautiful, but that beauty has a sharp edge to it. There's a danger to being out in the woods up there.
The great menace to the Friends and the local townsfolk is an awesome weapon known as Slacker.
Yes, Slacker is actually an acronym, SLCR, which is Satellite Laser Cannon Remote, which controls the satellite, which is the true weapon.
Tell us how that gaming craze ties into your book.
In the military, they're often using video games to train soldiers now. Another aspect that's starting to come into play is the creation of weapon systems, or the controls of weapon systems that are patterned or based on video games or video game controllers. In Deadfall, the bad guys own a video game company, and one of their fathers that runs a weapons manufacturing company. The son convinces the father that what he is doing in the video game company is something that can help his father create weapon systems that work well. At the same time, the son can use the weapon system as one of the weapons in video games that he creates. As they reach deeper inside, we realize that there's perhaps more of a level playing field than we at first thought there was, when we see a bad guy with a big gun and the good guys with practically nothing, a bow and arrow. So the good guys really have very primitive technology in terms of weaponry, and we think, well, how can they possibly survive?
You've written quite an action-packed thriller with Deadfall. Thank you so much for speaking with us about it.
Well, thank you for having me here.